Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact 4 stages of scaling a business. With over a decade of experience in business automations and scaling, we've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs transform their small businesses into 7 and even 8-figure companies. Now, you've probably heard a plethora of information about scaling, from lead gen offers to course creators to SEO optimization. But in order to truly understand what scaling is, you really need to break down each stage into its fundamental components, and that's exactly what we're doing today. In this video, we'll break down the 4 crucial stages of scaling a business, from starting as a one-person show to running a fully automated enterprise company. Before we jump in, if you have any questions about how these stages apply to your business, click the link below and book a free strategy session with our team. We'll guide you through everything you need to know and even build you a personalized roadmap to level up your business. That said, there are 4 distinct phases in the entrepreneurial journey. But most business owners get stuck in one of the early stages, or they revert back to phase 1 because of one problem that we'll talk about later in the video. And if you're not consciously moving through these stages, you could be leaving thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table every single month. So without further ado, let's jump into the 4 stages of scaling a business. Alrighty, the first step in 90% of entrepreneurs' journeys is the freelancer. The freelancer runs a one-person show, handling every aspect of their business from client acquisition to delivery. While the freedom and control are appealing, this approach often leads to burnout, with growth limited by how much time you can personally invest. Transitioning from this stage requires breaking old habits and setting up systems that allow you to move from doing to leading. Now, at the freelancer stage, there's a few attributes to help you identify where you're at. So first off, freelancers typically are staying within their comfort zone. They're familiar with the routine of hands-on work, and it can be hard to break. So it's difficult for new entrepreneurs to break out and do new things because it's scary, so they maintain their position in that comfort zone. Next, and this kind of goes along with the comfort zone, is they have a fear of change. So scaling always is going to involve new risks and unknowns, and that's the name of the game when it comes to business. You need to take risks to be able to get that large payoff. And with freelancers, they typically aren't taking this risk because they're working by themselves and they're not taking the risk to become a larger entity. Next, a lot of times entrepreneurs in the freelancer stage are afraid of change. And this kind of goes hand in hand with them not wanting to leave their comfort zones. So if you think about it, when you are actually scaling a business and reaching these higher revenue heights, you need to take risks and invest in third-party agencies, new employees, to actually be able to get better results than what you're currently getting. And a lot of times people in the freelancer stage don't want to make these risks because they're too worried that it's not going to pan out. And this is why they're stuck at the freelancer stage. Another attribute I've seen freelancers struggle with is resistance to release control. And the reason this is because they've been doing things by themselves for so long, and they don't want someone else to go and mess up their processes. So they're a little bit hesitant to relinquish control of particular tasks. This obviously hinders their availability to scale because they're doing everything themselves. Next, a lot of freelancers that I see have a lack of systems. And the reason that is because they haven't been a part of a larger organization where it's more common to have SOPs so you can hand off those systems to someone else or to an automation. Another aspect that I see a lot is these freelancers are constantly trading time for money. Rather than to achieve scale, you need to trade money for time. And the reason this is they're too busy working in the business to actually work on the business and improve the current systems. Finally, and this one's on a case-by-case basis, but I've seen a lot of freelancers have a strong personal identification with the role of a doer rather than the role of a leader. And obviously, as a doer, you're kind of set back because you're not able to delegate tasks and you're doing everything yourself. So let's say you're a freelancer now. How do you get out of phase 1 and add more leverage to your business? So all you need to do is reverse all of the attributes of the freelancer. So if you're currently in your comfort zone, take time to branch out of your comfort zone. If you're currently afraid of change and you're pushing off tasks that you know have a potential to benefit your business, then overcome those fears and take some risks. If you have issues with control, try hiring a VA or try hiring someone on your team that gets a percentage of revenue so you don't have to pay them out of pocket because you have some financial constraints, and see how that works. Take a risk in that aspect. If you don't have any systems, start to build SOPs, or if you're hiring someone, have them build out SOPs so you can continue to delegate or even automate tasks. If you're facing financial constraints, in this case, you want to delegate more work and automate more work so you can take on more leads, do more projects, make more money, and scale the business that way. If you don't have any time, this goes without saying, if you're delegating or you're automating, it's going to free up time off of your plate and you can focus more on strategy. And finally, the identity attachment issue, that's just a mindset thing that you're going to need to get over if you want to scale and build a highly profitable business. All right, moving on to the small team. The small team is when you've moved beyond the one-person operation and started to bring in team members to help manage the workload. Unlike the freelancer, you're now focused on delegating tasks and implementing systems, but you still may feel stuck in a revenue plateau. The key challenge here is building the right infrastructure, especially around CRM and automation, to help your business scale without relying solely on your personal bandwidth. I want to take a moment and discuss when it's time to hire some new employees and transition from the freelancer level. Now, if you feel like you're working 8+ hours or 10+ hours a day and you have no free time for your family, your hobbies, or just some time for yourself, or if you've been stuck at a revenue barrier because you don't have enough time to take on more clients and you don't have the fulfillment to take on more clients, then it's time to hire a new employee to take on some of your tasks. It's also imperative, because you're such a small team, to start implementing some automations into your business so you don't have to hire anyone else and you can keep it small and keep your margins high. So some of the automations we've seen work really well with small teams is CRM. So automating things like lead tracking, follow-ups, customer communication. We can implement automated email sequences for nurturing leads, onboarding new clients, making sure our leads are qualified. We can use chatbots for initial customer inquiries and basic support. And we could do some minor team management automations. I mean, you're still small. You don't need anything too big, but for paying team members, for setting up calls, sending reminders, etc. And real quick, I want to go over the attributes that I see many times with small teams that we've worked with. First off, small teams often have leaders that struggle to effectively delegate tasks. And this might be because they don't fully trust their team yet, which leads to micromanagement and inefficiencies within the business. Another thing I've seen a lot is fragmented or incomplete systems. So they start building out a new process, but they don't actually finish it because they get bogged down with other tasks or other priorities. Finally, a lot of times these small teams hit revenue plateaus because they haven't fully embraced automation or even delegation because they're such a small team, which limits the amount of growth that they can achieve. Now moving into the startup. At the startup stage, you're moving beyond the initial hustle and establishing a solid foundation for growth. Automation becomes critical at this stage for breaking through the $100K to $1 million a month revenue barrier, as you need to scale marketing, sales, and lead nurturing without increasing your workload. Your role shifts from being heavily involved in day-to-day operations to focusing on strategic growth, with automation and delegation running most of the back-end processes. As a startup ourselves and working with several startup companies, we've seen a lot of times they have robust standard operating procedures, so documenting our training processes, any sort of systems that go on internally so we can hand them off to a new team member and they could essentially go from knowing nothing to doing the exact process described in the SOP. Revenue generation, this is major for startups, and it's often the number one priority. They have really big sales teams and they have really big marketing teams for this exact reason. And it's a lot of times why we see massive layoffs with startups is because they're moving from non-revenue generating activities where removing those and focusing only on revenue generation. The next thing I've seen is a lot of times startups have more advanced systems in place. So these are automations like onboarding automations, learning management systems for training new sales reps, live sales dashboards for tracking, automated funnels, and custom chatbots. And I've actually put together a list of 53 automations to scale your business on autopilot. We give this to a lot of the startup companies that we work with, and they've found very valuable because these are the things that they actually use. Cool. And the last thing that startups typically do is they map out every single process in their business from their funnel to, again, their SOPs. So this is a little example we put together for a mini funnel. There's a major funnel for this client that we actually put together, but this is just a quick snapshot of what this process map looks like. Working with startups, we've noticed a few different attributes with our experience. So often startups fail to evaluate bottom line revenue because they're so focused on top line revenue. A lot of times they're funded and they're using that funding to drive more growth, and they're always focusing on the top line, but they're not focused on efficiency on the back end, which is where they tend to struggle. Another thing is cash flow can fluctuate because they are funded and they're not focusing on that bottom line revenue, which makes it difficult to forecast and plan into the future for investments and expansion. And again, this is why we see a lot of layoffs with startup companies. Next, we see processes that worked well at the small team level don't work anymore, and they start to become bottlenecks. Manual processes or incomplete automations that are halfway built out, these can slow down operations and lead to inefficiencies and missed sales opportunities. Another thing that we see a lot is the founder can sometimes struggle in the transition from a hands-on operator to a strategic leader. Now, remember, if they're coming from a small team or if they're coming from the freelancer stage, they're used to doing everything themselves and not actually delegating tasks. So they're not very effective at this. So this can lead to decision-making bottlenecks where everything still passes through them and they're not able to make decisions quickly, which slows down growth and scaling. Finally, some startups will have difficulty in personalizing the customer experience. The fulfillment quality of their actual product or service reduces, and this is going to lead to a higher churn. And the final growth stage is the enterprise company. The enterprise company is easily bringing in over $1 million a month. They're powered by fully automated processes and have minimal manual intervention. Clear, documented workflows handle the day-to-day operations, allowing the CEO to focus on strategic growth rather than daily management. To maintain consistent momentum, it's crucial to avoid overloading your team and instead rely on optimized automation systems that scale effortlessly and handle an unlimited volume of work. Newer enterprise companies typically have fully automated processes. They have minimal manual intervention, which ensures smooth day-to-day operations without the CEO being involved. We've also noticed that enterprise companies have a very clear organizational structure and work is managed through documented processes. Because of the structure and the efficiency of the business, they should be able to handle virtually, and I say virtually because it depends on the business model and the product or service, unlimited work volume due to their highly optimized systems and automations. And again, this is on a case-by-case basis. This isn't with every single company. Finally, with newer enterprise companies, we've seen automations or teams that are fully integrated across every single department. That includes sales, marketing, customer service, operations, fulfillment, etc. They all work together to deliver the highest quality experience to the customer. A lot of times these older enterprise companies, however, have a few different limiting beliefs. So first, they're resistant to change and innovation. They're kind of stuck in their ways because things have worked well for so long and they don't want to make a risk of trying out a new agency or a new business model. Another thing we've seen is they have limiting beliefs around AI and automation. They think that their data is going to get taken by OpenAI or any of these other large language model companies, which simply isn't the case because we can use local LLMs to use and process our data rather than sending it off to a major company like OpenAI. OpenAI has also specifically added a setting to not take in the data to train their LLMs as well. Another thing that I've noticed having worked in an enterprise company and working with other enterprise companies are their employees aren't really that efficient. When you're within an organization with so many people, it's easy to get lost in the sea of employees and kind of sit back and kick your feet up. So these employees are doing less work than they probably could be doing because they're able to hide behind the guise of a large organization. Lastly, if you've ever been a part of an enterprise company, you know that it takes forever to get things done because you have to go through layers of management. Even to get a raise for like $3,000, it can take 6 months of a manager going up the chain of command to try to get that raise for you. It's ridiculous. I remember when I was back in sales, I would have to CC my director and my VP every single time I sent an internal email because they wanted to have the visibility into the emails that I'm sending. And the moral of the story is management is not always aligned with the best interest of the company. There's a lot of times where they'll get stuck with trivial matters that don't actually push the business forward, and it causes the employee to be less efficient than they can be. So there you have it. Now that you understand the 4 stages of scaling a business from freelancer to enterprise empire, I want to offer you the chance to take this knowledge and apply it directly to your business. If you want to apply everything you just learned directly in your business, along with the systems and the automations along with it, click the link below and I'll see you in the next one.